Villawood Properties, premier partner of the Rippetwood Football Netball Club.
Welcome to episode 9 of The Tank. I'm Mitchell. On tonight's show, I'll review all the results of the weekend. It's a big clash against Broadford. Speak to Dylan Dremel, who made his senior debut for Rupo against the Roos last week, as well as our under-19 captain Connor Frantti-Glen, and bring you up to date with all the goings on around the club. Also chat with one of the 2018 recruits, John Barnard. As usual, 60 seconds with feats. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
In round 8 results, Rippetwood 32-20, 2-1-2 defeated Broadford 1-2-8. Todd Podolzak with 9 goals and Nick Grigg with 7 the main goal scorers. Rippetwood now moved to 28 points and assume top position. In the reserves, where the forfeit from Broadford says Rippetwood moved to 28 points and equal billing on top of the ladder. And in the under-19s, we see Rippetwood 14-11-95 defeated Broadford 2-1-13. Jacob Shaheen with 4 goals. Matty Castle the best. Rippetwood on top of the table.
Okay, we're here with the senior coach, Nick Ash. A bit of a one-sided game today, Nick, but you got to give Broadford kudos for just keep coming all day.
Yeah, you do, mate. Obviously, they're a little bit short on numbers with no reserve side today, but they had enough numbers out there to put a 19 side who competed quite well against our 19s. And then, obviously, with the senior game, we got off to a good start and continue that momentum right throughout 4 quarters of football and come away with quite a solid win. So it was good.
Beautiful. Forward line strengthened up with the inclusion of Nick Grigg.
Yeah, Griggy's good, mate. He's got a good presence down there. He's played a lot of senior football around the traps and basically all over Victoria, I think. So it was good to get him out there and slotted him really nicely down there with Toddy.
Fantastic. And Dylan Dremel, a great first up effort.
Yeah, fantastic. Dylan's been out of footy for a couple of years. His first year back, I think, since he last played at Riddle. So it was a bit of a slow build for him, I guess you could say, over pre-season, the first few games in the reserves, and then obviously got himself into some really good form and come out today and justified his selection.
And looking forward to next week, your old mob, Riddle.
Yeah, no, it should be really good to head up there and see some familiar faces and look forward to the contest. Obviously they're in a purple patch of form at the moment. They're playing some really good footy, so it's surely going to be a really good contest.
Terrific, thanks for your time, Nick.
All right.
Okay, we're here with senior debutant Dylan Dremel. First game today, Dill, how'd you find it?
Yeah, it was good. Nice easy game to start in the seniors. Wasn't too hard, so nothing too fancy.
Much of a difference in the pace from the usual reserves games?
Yeah, it's a little quicker.
Yeah.
The skills are a lot better, so it's a bit more easier to get a touch and find the right places, you get looked after.
Beautiful, fitted in nicely. I thought you got plenty of the footy and looked really good.
Yeah, cheers. It was pretty easy, just running off the half back and a little bit on ball. So.
Fantastic, mate. Looking forward to Riddle next week. And
yeah, the old club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look after them and see if they get into me a little.
No worries. Congratulations on the game today, mate. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Round 8 netball in A grade, Rippetwood 64 defeated Broadford 24, with Lucy Bettina having 26 goals. Best on the court was Shannon Blackman. In the B grade, Rippetwood 57 defeated Broadford 21, with Lucy Bettina scoring 35 goals. Best on the court was Georgia Hallier. In the C grade, Rippetwood 28 defeated Broadford 18, with Danielle Scardamalia with 9 goals, and Beck Purcell best on the court. And in the under-19s, Rippetwood 70 defeated Broadford 4. Hannah Keane scoring 30 goals, and Georgia Hallier best on court honours.
Right, we have Connor Frantti-Glen from the under-19s. Tell us about your Rippo journey today.
I started my Rippo journey about 2 seasons ago when we won the flag. That was the 2016 season. It's probably one of my better seasons that year, and definitely as a club it was a good season for the 19s, 18 and a half back then. We had a pretty strong side and probably hasn't been as strong since then.
Yeah, nice. Now, your ex-captain, how did you enjoy the role when you were doing it?
It was a grouse role, getting around the boys and stuff like that, and it really puts a bit of pressure on your shoulders, which made me play a bit better. But I thought this year I'd step down and sit back a little bit, because I probably didn't play as well with the pressure on me.
Yeah. Did it help with the ladies when you were captain?
Oh, definitely not.
Team is currently sitting on top of the ladder. Can you give us a summary of the season so far?
We're playing good footy, but I think this is a team we're not really gelling as probably well as we should be. I think it's just because we're playing a handful of teams that are pretty average, and we haven't really had a really hard game this season yet. Yeah, so once we play a few good teams, which will be in the next coming weeks, definitely should pick up a little bit.
Yeah, nice. If you're on footy trip, who would you not want in your room with you and more?
Definitely not Jenkins, because he'd probably make you pay for everything. So yeah. And finally, what's your expectations for the remainder of the 19 season? Definitely hit the finals running, and take it as far as we can. I think there's no limits where we can go.
Well, thanks, mate. Thanks for joining us.
No worries.
Morfab Engineering, platinum partner of the Rippetwood Football Netball Club. Pinnacle Print Group, platinum sponsor of the Rippetwood Football Netball Club.
As part of the series, we're introducing new recruits to the club. It's my pleasure that we welcome John Barnard to the tank.
Welcome.
Tell us about your footy journey to date.
We're here or before Rubo?
Before Ripper.
Played at Strathmore most of my juniors, and then went up the bush for a little bit.
Yeah, nice.
Yep, and then found my way to fucking Rubo.
Yeah, nice. Who are some of the players to note during your time that you played with?
Maybe Nathan Grimer. He coached me last year at Strathmore.
Yeah.
But he was a bit of a pain in the ass, but yeah, that's probably about it.
Yeah.
Maybe Keisha.
Tell us about how you come about coming to the Rupo.
Ashley got Leroy here when he got the coaching role, and I just tagged along with Roy pretty much.
You've had a big impact on the club since coming, with interleague selection. How have you found the RDFL?
Yeah, the RDFL's good. Enjoying myself here. Good bunch of blokes. Umpires are pretty shit, but you get used to that. But nah, having a good time.
You seem to enjoy the social side of footy. Any insights you can pass on about your teammates?
Nah, not really. Don't give away any secrets. But nah, they're all a good bunch of boys, and yeah, we're having a good time.
Yeah, nice. All right. Thanks for taking the time speaking to the tank, and we wish you a long and happy journey at Rupo.
Thanks, Waitress.
Thanks, mate.
All right.
All right, before we go, please remember to buy your tickets to the Rupo Bonanza. $8,000 in door prizes, sorry. And thanks to our lovely sponsors. Yeah, thank you.
Get your tickets.
Don't forget the dinner dance on July 28. Get your tables organised and booked, as there are limited numbers left. After the credits roll, stay tuned for all information on our corporate partners and businesses. Make sure you back them as a crucial part of our club. Okay, that's all from the tank for another week. Stick around for the RDFL footy show with Tara and Yendi. Thank you.
G'day and welcome to another massive edition of the RDFNL Footy Show. Thanks to On Time Delivery Solutions. My name's Yendi. I'm joined by Tara Murray. We're back into it and firing from all cylinders, and it's pretty exciting times ahead.
It was after that weekend off. We had a pretty good round. We had a couple of upsets, we had a couple of blowouts, and we had one of the competition's best players return after being at another club earlier this season. So a big weekend.
Definitely right, and that's where we'll turn our attention to as Macedon took down Melton Centrals. But of course, the big talking point was Jason Cook returning home to the Cats.
It was. So his clearance went through, I think it was on Friday night. I found out about that by yourself, actually. So I saw that and was quite interested. And he pulled on the jumper Saturday, and I spoke to Cats coach Ben Tankard and just said, I think Jason just wanted to come back to the Cats. He wasn't quite happy over in St Albans, so he came back, and he's not going to play many matches. They're hoping to get him enough to qualify for finals because he is going overseas for a number of weeks. But he adds a bit of X factor to that side, so they're not expecting him to have the role that he did last season, league leading goal kicker, the Bowen medalist, but just someone who can provide that extra X factor come the side come finals time.
Be interested to see how they use him as well, because they did use the captain in his role, Nipper Wright, sort of pushing him forward. So be interested to see how they when Cook does get back into the fold properly, how they use the two together.
Well, it's quite interesting, and you look at the moment, the Cats still have a few players out injured. You've got Casey Somerville out, Matt Dick, Jack Kernan, so you've still got a lot of talent to come back into the side. You add Cook into that, there's some great talent on that side, and at the same time they're getting some of those younger guys through the middle. You have Patrick Doyle and Zach Smedley spent a lot of the time on Saturday against Melton Centrals in the middle, and those two were the best on ground for the Cats. So there's some good signs going forward for the Cats, who are building a bit of depth but also getting wins at the same time.
How do you see the Centrals after their effort? They had almost just as many scoring shots as the Cats, but still went down by 5 goals in tough conditions.
Look, yeah, and that's what speaking with Ben, he said it was pretty tough conditions. There was a 4 to 5 goal wind at one end, but even when you had that wind, it was pretty swirly and it was pretty tough to score again. So you look at it, you go in the end, they've lost by 31 points. They'd be disappointing kicking 3 goals 10, but at the same time they are closing the gap on those top sides. Probably 12 months ago that would have been double that amount, if not even more. So they are closing the gap, but they'd still be disappointed to kick 3 goals 10 in a match. Something
they can bounce back from anyway in tough conditions like that. I think teams would have just been happy to get through without any injuries, which hopefully that was the case.
Cats had a couple, so Errol McConnell, Chris Kilmartin were a couple more added to the injury list there. So I think Chris played out the game with a shoulder injury, but they lost Errol earlier in the match with a calf injury, and they're still to assess how long that will take. So obviously for Centrals, they'll be looking to bounce back, and they've got a very winnable match coming up this weekend.
One of the great match of the round on paper, probably didn't really live up to the hype, but Diggers Rest took down Wallen. I know the margin was only 4 goals, but Wallen rallied late in the final term.
It is, I think the margin flattered Wallen in the end, so that I think they kicked the last 3-4 goals of the game. So speaking with Diggers Rest coach Jamie Lodd, he said for 3 3.75, they played some really, really good football and probably their best game of the season. So obviously they've had some blowout wins against some of those other sides, but this time they were playing one of the top sides, took them down, and they're starting to get their players back. This was probably this was their strongest lineup they've had for the year. They're still missing another 2 or 3, so I think they did run out of legs a little bit, because I think there was 8 changes from the week before. So the Boroughs are starting to build, and we're starting to see the side we've come to see the last few years, so they're only going to get stronger.
You look at Diggers Rest, who fielded arguably their strongest lineup of the season. On the other hand, Wallen were probably fielding their weakest lineup with a number of injuries to key players. I think they were probably missing maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 players from their starting 22, which going into a big game like that gives the opportunity for some of the younger guys who are sitting on the fringe, because they've got some good depth going through their club, an opportunity to play on the big stage in an important game like that.
Yeah, and both sides have depth. Diggers Rest is top of the ladder in the reserves as well. I think they're undefeated, or if they're not undefeated, they've only lost 1 match. So you look at that, you see these younger guys, and you want to see what they can do in these big matches. Wallen would be disappointed to lose that match, but at the same time, it's only their first loss of the season, so they're still sitting in a really good position, and they're getting a number of players through that top side.
And first loss of the season, only by 22 points. It's not a bad outcome for them.
Exactly, and there's still a lot to build. They've lost to a really good side. It's not like it's an upset loss. They've lost to a side outside the top 6. They've lost to a side that have been around the mark life for so many years and still looks likely to be in that top 3 or 4.
Spot on. And a game that sort of went against both our expectations. The Sunbury Kangaroos prevailed over Woodend Heskett.
That was a little bit of a shock. So, yeah, obviously Sunbury Kangaroos were probably coming off their worst performance of the year against Riddle when they didn't kick a goal for 3 quarters. And we've seen Woodend has been one of the strongest times in more recent weeks, including beating Diggers Rest. So it was quite disappointing for Woodend. You look at it, they did rally late and got within 4 points in that last quarter, but Sunbury Kangaroos this time round were able to hold them off. So against Wallen, they got run over the top, but this time Sunbury Kangaroos found another level late and kicked those extra goals to get the win.
Yeah, it was a fantastic performance by them, and certainly one that might give them a little bit of confidence that finals may be a possibility for them in 2018.
Look, it's a very crucial match this week. They play Romsey, so it's this week's the crucial one, but it still keeps them alive and still keeps them in the finals mix, where for Woodend, that's probably a very disappointing match, and one they've let slip. So obviously they've let slip 2 matches against Romsey and Sunbury Kangaroos, which they would have penciled in as wins. Yeah, they pick up the Diggers Rest ones, but they're probably 1 game behind where they'd like to be at this point of the season.
Probably need to pick up another scalp just to make up for that. Riddle comfortably took down Lansfield.
It was no surprise there. Riddle has been in some really, really good form recently, and they're kicking a lot of goals. Again, they were inaccurate. They kicked 22-20, so that seems to be an issue with them at the moment. But you look, they were dominant. You had Hayden Ross kick 7 goals up forward, and he's up to 35 goals for the season. So he's sort of probably playing a little bit more forward than he has in the past. He still goes through that midfield, but it gives them that different option and gives them a different look up forward. And probably one you've been looking forward to see Dylan Tarkson really fire. He was named best on ground, so I don't think he kicked a bag of goals, but he's starting to fire, and we're starting to see the player that we've seen through the TAC Cup and the VFL system.
Yeah, his last couple of weeks have been very impressive, and I know he's been getting his tyres pumped up on social media. He's been tagged in a few posts, so love the feedback there, and hopefully that. If he's playing some good footy, I think we can take credit for some of that, spurring him on a little bit. Romsey, as expected, took down Rockbank, but inaccurate kicking sort of could hurt Romsey in the back end of the season.
Look, obviously it wasn't the best weekend for football. I'm not sure how windy it was there on Saturday. I know Sunday was horrible across basically all of the state. A lot of matches called off in different areas and with grounds flooded. But obviously for Romsey, it was about getting back into some good form. They have struggled a little bit in recent weeks. So to see them do that, you had Jack O'Sullivan kicked 5 goals in a best on ground performance. Where for Rockbank, I know I did speak to Lee McInerney a couple weeks ago, and he said for them, they already know this season they're struggling with depth, they're struggling with players in and out, so they're throwing players around, seeing if they can play different positions and seeing what they can do ahead of next year. So they're looking already. They knew this year was going to be tough. They're already looking to next season.
And good to see Mitch Baumgartner have an outstanding performance in the ruck. He was named as one of the best for the Rams. I know we pumped him up last week, and it's good to see his efforts show there. Rupert's Wood and Broadford, no surprises with the outcome there.
Not at all. This was quite easy to predict. You've got, obviously, with Rupert's Wood now back on top of the ladder, you've got the top side versus the bottom side, and you look at 200-point margin was what you sort of expect. Todd Podolzak was in the goals yet again.
Yep.
So he kicked, I think, 9 goals, but they across the game, they kicked at least 7 goals in each quarter, so it was a pretty even spread across the board for the Sharks. And they also had Nick Grigg out there for his first game, and he kicked 7 goals, so not a bad way to slot into the side. So adds another depth there for them. Obviously, for Broadford, it was another tough day. Their reserves forfeited again, so they are struggling numbers. So you probably had a few reserves players playing seniors that normally wouldn't as well. So it is tough going out there, but they've just got to keep battling through the season.
I do get impressed when I see a name like Matty Cooman sort of slip up. He was a Matthews medalist in the past, still a quality player. You put him into a team that's got a lot more depth, and I think we'll see great things from him, and I no doubt when he's playing some great footy in a great side, like when Broadford were a few years ago, he's good to watch. And it's just a shame for him and the team. There's not enough quality players around him that have had some experience to really gel together. And
that's it. And we know that it is a building year and getting through. It's about getting through this year for Broadford, and then hopefully building for the future. That they can, some of these guys get in that senior experience, that it will help them in the years to come.
Certainly fantastic there. Well, thanks to our friends at On Time Delivery Solutions. Thanks to you, Tara, from the Star Weekly, for joining us, and we'll catch you later on in the week.
Thanks for having me.